Hey everyone, my name is Lester Martin from Starburst, and I am a developer advocate here. And today, what we're going to do is a demonstration with Starburst Galaxy. And in fact, what we're going to do is show a little bit about the tool and everything, give you a little bit of a scenario. I have something on my screen that I'll just leave up for a few more seconds, and then we'll just exercise all that. And what I would encourage you to do while I'm presenting is absolutely, give us some information, some questions, whatever you need in the chat. I have the chat over there, so I'm going to try to look over here, but I'll be peeking every once in a while. I have Anna here also on the call with us, and she's going to help remind me if somehow I'm missing a question or something. So absolutely jump on in if and when you have a thought or question or concern. And Anna will probably give you links to how to get our, sign up for Starburst Galaxy for free and all kinds of really cool, interesting stuff. If not, I'll try to do it at the end there. All right. So if I went to Starburst Galaxy and I logged in, so I already went in and logged in. I didn't need to show you that. I just want to give you a dime tour of Starburst Galaxy. It looks like a GUI tool. What Starburst Galaxy really is a front end to connect to a bunch of one or many clusters. And these clusters are built on open source Trino plus some additional features. And then we mix and match those clusters with what we call catalogs or data connections to databases, the data lakes, the search engine, so on and so forth. So I'll just show you a couple of those things, and then we'll jump into the kind of use case I'm going to run through today. So here's an example. I have only a handful of clusters pre-configured here. I'm going to be focused on what I call free cluster, but I could hit create cluster and set one up here for us. I will hit my free cluster. Well, we'll just do it that way. If I joined a cluster, pick a name, and I already have a bunch of these, what I mentioned as catalogs or data connections that I could choose to connect to it. And I have different options, standard, fault tolerant, accelerated. We're going to not go into too much of these right now. We have a webinar of all of these things separately, but they are kind of what they sound like. We have ways to kind of toggle this from a free solution, which you can have forever, to a paid solution, and then you can start playing games with the scales and the slides about up and down and so on and so forth. So pretty normal stuff. They're set up one or more clusters. I got one called free cluster. It's already running. If I look in the free cluster, I guess I'll look at it from data. If I went to my data side and I said, hey, tell me what I have it set up. I have a bunch of catalogs. We're going to only use two of those today in my examples. But if you kind of look, they actually have little smart icons on them that kind of suggest what they might be. This little blue elephant, this snowflake looking icon might tell you what that is. These are S3 buckets. And these are just like the catalogs. They were wizard driven. We do this in Starburst Enterprise primarily through YAML files and stuff. We do it in Starburst Galaxy primarily through wizards and REST APIs and that kind of stuff. So there we go. Create a catalog, pick the kind of thing you're connecting to, and then just go in and configure it. I'll just eyeball just the one I'm going to use for us today. I think I called it AWS Pokemon. That's probably the one. Yep. And I'm just going to go into that config just to show you what I'm talking about. There we go. Just named it something. How are you going to connect? Tell me about the Metastore, Hive, or Glue, or something like that. I've used the internal one as well. All right. So without further ado, what I think I should do is, because we could spend half a day looking at the UI, I came over here and just said, hey, where am I going to spend a lot of today? I'm going to spend a lot of it here, but we'll hit a few other areas that I'll talk about in just a second here. And absolutely, there is a tree of clusters. And then within the tree of clusters, a tree of catalogs, data catalogs, and so on and so on and so on. So let's go ahead and talk about the use case I have. All right, so I'm going to put that picture back up on screen. And the use case I have, I would say, well, I guess I gave you the Starburst Galaxy plug, so I guess I don't need to read my little rough script over there, but good stuff for sure. Yeah, I'll just show you instead of tell you. How about that? All right, so what is our use case? Well, we work over at Nintendo. We're on the Pokemon kind of side of the family, and very specifically, we're working in the Pokemon Go space. So some of you know all about Pokemon and Pokemon Go, and those that don't, Pokemon's long-lived animation, video game, all of this kind of good stuff. And Pokemon Go is specifically a video game played on usually phones with augmented reality, and it simulates these Pokemon surfacing or spawning And then people that love the game go chase them all around town and try to catch them. Got to catch them all, kind of a thing. So what we're going to do is say this: that Pokemon data that's spawning like crazy, it's actually getting produced and loaded out on Amazon S3 for us in some files that we'll see shortly here. And what we want to do with that data is kind of talk to our business and say, what do you want to tease out of that? What kind of information are you going to try to focus on? You'll see that we're going to focus on San Francisco and looking for popular types and that kind of stuff. So we want to work that data through that classical medallion architecture, the old bronze kind of raw data, silver representing normalized, standardized, enriched, validated, all that kind of good stuff. And then a gold tier as well. That would be our highly optimized, performance-oriented data sets that have a specific business value. So the data is really in silver, and they can query silver, but why not give them some optimized and simplified data sets? And then we'll even go a little further, probably in our time that we have, and take those gold tier, and express it in a concept we call data products. So the only twist to all that S3 data is that S3 data mentions this is a Pokemon, like its name. It's a Pikachu, but we don't know all the details about a Pikachu. So over here in Snowflake, we are going to have a thing called the Pokedex. What is the Pokedex? It's the customer master for Pokemon. It's the Pokemon master. It tells me all about each kind of Pokemon type and how they work, and are they electric or water, all this kind of fun stuff. All right, so that's kind of our backdrop that we're going to leverage and move along. And I think the very first thing we should probably do, as I look at my little notes over here, is let's go try to find that data. Let's go discover that data I promised you is out there in S3. All right, so I'm going to add a catalog already set up. So I'm going to go back in the catalogs view one more time and look at Pokemon. And in Pokemon, I have no schemas. If you look right here, if I open it up, this just has an info schema. It's just kind of a metadata thing. So I'm going to hit this tab called Schema Discovery. And I'm going to say, let's go run some discovery. And what I'm going to do is actually target it at the location in S3 that I know that Pokemon data resides. Okay. And what I'm going to do from there is say, okay, go find whatever I find there and build me DDL, build me schemas, build me tables that will live somewhere. I'm just going to use a simple schema name called discovered schema just to make it painfully obvious. So I kicked that tool off, and the tool actually went out there and looked and said, look, I need to build, looks like I'm going to build you a schema. Doesn't exist, discovered schema, so I need to create that, but I also want to build you this table called Pokemon. So we say, yeah, that's really what I was looking for. So let's go ahead and have Starburst Galaxy's schema discovery take care of that for us. So a few more seconds here. Hopefully that'll all work out. Events, found it. Yep. And it said, look, I did this for you. I ran some SQL. I ran you a create schema just because we didn't have that already. If we targeted a schema that exists, that would have shown up. But more importantly, it ran this. It created this for us. Hey, I'm going to create a table called Pokemon with these fields, these data types. And where is it? What is it? Well, it's a hide table. It's actually this location that we talked about. Noticed it was looks like it was a CSV file. And it noticed it did have a header, which actually was great because it helped us fill out these kind of names here. Works a little better with JSON than CSV, but works pretty darn good with CSV. All right, so I'm going to exit that and say, yeah, that's what I want. It did that for us. And if it did that for us, probably the best thing we can do is go, make sure I get my steps up here. Yep. Let's go over to our query editor and see what we actually have in that table. All right, so here I am. Let me collapse that one. I'm going to open up AWS Pokemon. And a minute ago, there was only info schema. Now there's discovered schema. What's inside discovered schema? A table called Pokemon, and the table has those fields and data types that you saw just a moment ago. And if we really, really want to see it, and I'm on the wrong tab, that's why. Here we go. If I really, really want to see it, I could probably say, wrong tab. There we go. I could probably say, hey, run me a few of those. Run me that table. Run me a query against the Pokemon table. And I got a network error, which is new to me. Let's see, free cluster. Oh, wait, maybe I put it in the wrong place. Discover schema. I'm poking it the wrong location. Let's try one more time. Connect, queued. Maybe my cluster went down. There we go. All right, so I had a little boo-boo on my part there. And there we go. That's that data we talked about. This is the Pokemon spawn data. And those that can see Latin long could probably start to suggest, oh, okay, a Pidgely spawned at this point in time at this location, showed up and when did it disappear. That's what it is. It's just kind of logging data that's running the game as we go along there. And in fact, by doing just that, even though it may not sound that exciting, and I can even show you if I did a show create table, that yeah, this table that you see here, that's DDL, is exactly what we saw a few minutes ago. This is just another way to kind of verify that. What did we do? We created this. We created a bronze tier. Now, obviously, in a bigger system, we have a lot more tables and all that stuff. We're going to focus on keep it kind of short and sweet to get through my demo. But we built us a bronze tier, data as received. We didn't change it. We just made a table, made it queryable, and everyone's pretty darn happy. Now, I said in this picture right here, we got this other stuff, the snowflake Pokemon information. So let's see if we can find that. Now, I'll go ahead and give you a hint. I've already previously configured. You can see it Pokemon lookup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and hit my search tab. And I'm going to say, I think it was something like Pokemon LKP lookup. That's the standard. There we go. Okay, cool. There we go. There is a catalog. So this is equivalent of coming in catalog and drilling down. And if you look there under schemas, there is a Pokemon lookup schema. If you look under that, there's a table called Pokedex. There's the field, so on and so on and so on forth. That's all goodness. And what we could actually do is simply just, let's see if I want to mention anything else in there. I guess not. Oh, I guess there was a preview they were going to say under data preview. And if you were looking at this system and you don't really want to go run a query, could you just take a peek in there and say, hey, is this the kind of data I want? Absolutely. It looks like it's a Bulbasaur with its different types and HP values and so on and so forth. So let's do this. This is arguably probably silver data, silver tier. And what it's kind of making the point is I'm not necessarily going to copy that data over. It lives in Snowflake. I don't have to query it every million times a second. Let's use the fact that Starburst Galaxy via Trino has this extensibility and this optionality to find data where it lives and whatnot. So let's move over to my query editor. And what I want to show you here is, see if I got it already kind of pre-set up, hopefully. There we go, a select statement. Whoops. Here, might as well look at it here. Pokemon lookup. There it is again. Poke lookup, Pokedex. So I got a query already stood up. Right click there. I think that's the one. I'll just highlight the whole row and say, hey, tell me a little look at the, whoops, wrong statement again. All right, there we go. Pokedex. Show me the Pokedex. This is the same information you saw a minute ago, in the preview, but this is me running a query specifically. So I could start doing additional things to that if I really wanted to. All right, so we want to build a bronze tier. Excuse me, we want to build a silver tier, silver layer, like you say. So I'm going to create a schema over here in this AWS Pokemon. Now, a minute ago, AWS Pokemon already had the discovered schema, and I just created one because of that statement called Lester Martin Demo, and yeah, February 20, kind of set it up last night to make sure to be there. And I'm going to give myself a little bit more room and say, hey, what am I going to do? Let's go ahead and create a table that I'm going to call, oddly enough, I'm going to put the word silver in the table name. Pokemon spawns silver. Pick my schema so I'll go to the right place. Table that, this, that, the other. Free cluster Pokemon. Let's try it one more time. Maybe I did something wrong. And then we'll look at the error if I did something wrong. I think I just target. There we go. I created a table. It's under this one. Let's see it. Now this table, if it shows up in a second, I guess it should, but we'll just let it. We'll trust that it's there in a second. It should be empty. We just defined a table. Now, how am I going to load that table? Well, I'm going to go ahead and run this, and then we'll talk about it briefly. So I'm going to say insert into that Pokemon's a silver data set. I think I see some questions already, but I might hold off. Yeah, I'll hold off. I think it's about REST APIs and stuff. Good questions. I'll hold off to the end. Okay, I'm going to run this quick query that says, hey, insert into Pokemon spawn silver. Terrible name because it has the word silver. Usually the schema we live in might help us decide things like that. But I went ahead and just said, put it there. Meanwhile, it did insert 95,000 rows. It's a small data set, of course. But if you look really closely, I just didn't do a simple select from. I did some transformations here, right? I adjusted, trimmed, I rounded off the lat long values. I did some casting. I did some naming changes from num to number. And I did some cleanup about the times. I'm sorry, I converted the milliseconds to seconds because my users could care less about a millisecond. They probably could care less about a second. And that's what we decided made a lot of sense for our business. And then I went a little further. I even excluded out and only included, that's the 95,000 here, is only the folks, the spawns that were in a certain region, a certain area, the San Francisco area. One might argue that in a production system, would I do that? I wouldn't if my business users were going to use all the data, or I plan to someday. My business users argued with me that they have worldwide data and all they care about is San Francisco. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I said, okay, you're going to save me a lot of space if you're never going to look at that data. Plus, I have it in my bronze tier because they're going to get it wrong. They're going to look at LA and New York and that kind of stuff. So I'll loosen up and we'll add that data in when we get there. All right, so we have a silver tier. Now, again, that process, as I do a quick query there, a Weedle, and what did we do? We just added in some additional details about, well, actually not yet. We trimmed out whatever. We didn't add any more details about a Weedle or Piggly. We just told you specifically, we did projections and we did filtering to get us that answer. So where are we? We're here kind of smack dab right here in this silver tier. In reality, that's going to be a lot harder. You're going to have a lot more tables, but that's kind of the work you're going to be doing. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to say, we already looked at the Pokedex, so no need to kind of run that query again. I'll just kick it off anyway. And I have another query here that says, hey, what if I joined that Pokedex with that silver spawn data we just talked about? Pretty normal SQL statement. And what could I do from there? I could pull in this P dot type 1, type 2, and the catch rate. These are details about a Weedle that I just didn't know from the, hey, a Weedle spawned at this point in time. So I'm enriching that data from the information over here in Snowflake. And that was just a query. Could people do that? Absolutely. Those silver tiers would work for them. But my business users, to be honest, I want to make it a little bit easier for them. So I'm going to say, hey, look, this is that information is what you care the most about. So I'm just going to go ahead and create you a formalized table. Could I make it a view? Could I make it a materialized view? Sure. But I decided to make it a full-on table, and I loaded it in there. And why did I do all that? Because now I got a little table. Instead of writing that big join with those different columns, here we go. I just have Pokemon final spawns. And in fact, my Pokemon final spawns, one might argue, is part of, is that silver or is that gold? I think it's kind of gold in my book. But I went ahead a little further and said, hey, look, maybe the question that they're really asking is this one. They're really trying to find, if you look kind of closely here, they're trying to find by type, the first type, a bug type, a dragon, electric. There's different kind of types of Pokemons. I'm really just trying to find out which one was the most, there we go, order the Pokemon, group them by that, and order them by how many times they have spawned up. So if we go back to the top, you should see that. There we go. A Weedle was spawned 5,300. The Caterpie went down to 3,000, and now we're down like 1,500s. So we're just doing that. But to be honest, what we really wanted was the most popular. This is giving us the popularity. So someone went ahead and said, hey, Lester, couldn't we just do a little bit more work to that, make that query like a common table expression, and then within that, so let me just run it and then I'll tell you about it. So this is creating a view. So this is going to run that fast because it doesn't actually change data, it just builds some metadata. So this was the query you saw here, ready? Find them all. It created that and called it like a common table or temp table or whatever you want to call it, popular types. And then he said, hey, from those, only give me the first one. So if I run that view that I just created, I should only have one per type. In fact, the Weedle should be our bug type with the 5,500. So this is something that's driving a dashboard all day to Sunday. People want to know this information. All right, so what I really built was this good combination of silver and gold tiers. I would say the silver was the spawns, the gold was the join of, because the Pokédex was a silver table too. I built a table and I built a view that expressed as my gold tier. All right, good questions. All right, I think what I'll do is I got a few more things I want to show, and then I will turn over and jump on the questions that I see out there. And I want to scan through my notes and see, good. I think the next things I was going to do, and no need to get too much into it. I'll just say it as I kind of click through it quickly here. We absolutely could do things like RBOC and ABOC, role-based and attribute-based policies. I could create Lester in this particular role here. I could go to this catalog, the one we just created. I can add a new privilege and say, yep, absolutely. Inside of Pokemon, discovered this. I could give permission very specifically to say maybe just that view to someone. Select the table. Yep, yep, yep. And while I'm here, I could do other stuff. If I'm not going to do it now, but we could tag data or have our AI agent tag data. We could build policies based on those tags, such as PII or corporate information, whatever things we want to do, and see that happen in practice. All that said, what I should see is this. If I went back to query editor and I see my 3 tables over here. If I toggle myself and force myself into that role called marketing, I should just see one of these tables. And I'm not going to run a query on it or try to do other things. I'm going to trust you to trust me that we can do that well. But again, role-based, pretty normal stuff. Attribute-based, pretty interesting stuff. We'll do that and a lot more in our Ice House 101 sessions. We take about 90 minutes and run through a variety of things. So I'll save that as well. The only thing I'll really do before I stop for questions is I will say, what if we wanted to elevate this thing as what we're calling a data product? So I'm going to toggle back to my big user account admin. I'm going to go back to the catalog perspective, and I'll look at AWS Pokemon, and I'm going to say things like, hey, could I come here in this schema and really start sharing more information? Could I detail, this is really cool stuff, all spelled bad and that kind of stuff. I could change owners. I could put contacts in here. Remember we said about tags. I could take advantage of some tags that maybe I've already created. This is all PII. That's not true. And it's all maybe this, that, and the other is really what it really is. This, that, and the other, etc. I could add links here to things. And this might be a great place where you could reference your own internal wiki or reference public standards about things, just normal stuff here. And this is just metadata. I'm going to delete that one. Metadata that we can keep at a catalog level. But at some point, and that's all good, REST APIs is fine, all this good stuff. But ultimately, what we might want to do is once you got a schema highly curated, good data that you really want to control, and definitely use RBOC to expose it and that kind of stuff. But you might want to surface it in a phrase in a subset of our framework here called data products. My Pokemon data product, and it's going to carry over to stuff we already had. You can change that if it's not appropriate anymore. You can add lots of markdown and describe things, preview that. You can even kind of say, hey, when someone's looking at this data product, much like they look at that catalog, if they want to do some previews, if they want to say, hey, go run this query, kick off things, you could add more links. We talked about those would all been carried forward. But ultimately, I'm going to promote that up to a data product. And this is all under a different view over here. So under data, we have a thing called data products. And you see that my Pokemon data product. And the intention of data products to kind of give it not enough due justice, but to say, this is a curated, right? This is your exposed. You want the world, think of this as a marketplace or a store where I can come and say, hey, what's out there? As opposed to what rights do I have, and go to maybe a classical query tool and drill down and hope you figure it out. This is the intention of showing off that information for the benefit of letting folks in the organization find, understand, see what's going on. And what folks can do in here is they can go do some more things than just what we saw earlier, right? There's going to be a listing of what data sets were in there. Real useful to me is this kind of add a usage. This is a great place for someone to detail maybe a query of particular data sets and show it. Again, it's just really heavy markup marketing. At the end of the day, it's still just data sets, tables, views, etc. over in an actual schema and that kind of stuff. All right, I see the time is kind of running out, which I think we're still online, but I do see we're running low on time. So I'm going to see if I can find that control. And I will go over there and take a look at the questions that I see in the list. Okay. All right, what do we got on? We got, is there a REST API which I can call inside my Python code and create schema and tables? Absolutely, there is. And in fact, in your Python code, we actually have, you can go search for Starburst clients or just client Python, and you have a couple options in the Python world. You have a classic Python client that looks like everything you're used to, I think it might have a quick snapshot. I guess not. You have to kind of drill down a little bit there. Trio, Python client. I was trying to make it super fast. There you go. There's your code, right? Run your query, get it, you're off and running. And that query is going to let you run DDL and all that kind of stuff. So that's not a REST API. That's a native Python. Now, we do have REST calls for administrative activities. Generally speaking, they're more administrative activities around check the cluster, spin it up, add a catalog, those kinds of things. Generally speaking, we're going to use DDL for create schema, create table, that kind of stuff. Hopefully that answers. How does it compare to BigQuery? It's a different analytic platform. That's a longer question. And in fact, if you want to talk about it more, Alan, if you're still here at noon today, I'll be doing a Ask Me Anything about data engineering as a whole, not just Trino or Starburst. And if you come, I will try to have a better answer for you than that. But I would say they are not direct competitors. They work a little differently, but they are in the schema of many people think of BigQuery, or they think of Snowflake, or they think of Starburst, Databricks, and I think as far as I'm going to go with it. Can you talk a bit about performance and cost advantages? That's when you compare it with what I would say comparing Snowflake and Starburst. Performance, there's a pretty good, we try to do a lot of benchmarkings or what benchmarkings are, but we try to do, I guess I don't have it up right here. There's a lot of external people referencing us, which is great. Most of these that are coming up are other people, and they're very good ones, including the Concurrency Lab one and stuff. I would say in general, we have a better cost for performance mix than both Databricks and Snowflake. Can I quote that for everyone else off the top of my head? I can't, but I can say we have folks internally that do nothing but do that. So reach out to me at, type it or devrel. I'm just going to type real quick. Devrel at starburst.io is a great place to send those questions, and we'll follow up beyond this as well. All right, other questions. Very good performance cost characteristics in favor of Trino and Starburst. Can you please talk about pricing? Yeah, you can. I think we'll just have to talk about that more offline. We'll get you connected up. I think we have some public information. We absolutely have information about Starburst Galaxy that you've been looking at. All that's listed right there on our doc site. Walks you through, what we call a unit and all that good stuff. But generally speaking, we charge basically for a node per, let's call it an hour, even though I think we do time limits of just a few minutes and all that good stuff. But the more nodes you need, the more money it costs. The rack off the shelf Starburst Galaxy price is just kind of price. And then if you're work with an account exec, obviously they can custom make pricing for you. So if you want to run on-prem with Starburst Enterprise, generally speaking, it's the same thing, but there are probably usually a few more variables in there, and usually you're involving an account executive to help get that final number. All right. Anna, do we see any other questions that I might have missed? And guess not. All righty. What I will do is wrap it up for today. And again, remind you, my name is Lester Martin, devrel at starburst.io or lester.martin at starburstdata.com are easy ways to reach out to me. We got a beautiful site over here called Starburst Community. If you just type Starburst Community, you will probably find it, hopefully. There it is. And it's just a little, got a great forum site here for Q&A, very specific to us. And I troll this thing nonstop as well. All right, I'm going to say so long for now, and we'll do this again. And like I said, we have check our events page. We got quite a few other activities that we're doing, and reach out to us directly at any time. Thanks.